program. This is the program that showcases independent producers, their productions, and provides a forum for discussing issues which affect independent television producers here in the Pacific Northwest.
All right, well, welcome to the Independent Producers Organization live showcase. I'm sitting here with the four members of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 82. Is that right? 82, right.
That's right, Portland area.
And on my immediate right is Jamie Partridge, and then we have Steve Lem, right? And then Willie Groeschel.
Yep, that's
Is that
correct.
pronounced right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we're going to talk about various aspects of the National Association of Letter Carriers, the union, and the post office itself. What we've I just heard earlier today was there was like a $2 billion loss that's just been posted. So that's quite large, and there's a lot to talk about. So we'll just lead off with Jamie, since you're the one I talked to. You kind of had this all organized how you wanted it to do. So how did you want to do this? Kind of let folks know what's going to go on here. Jamie
is going to pass off to me. We're going to
I thought he'd kind of lay out what was going to go on.
Well, what we'd like to do is talk about the crisis facing the Postal Service locally, how customer service and working conditions have deteriorated over the last few years, and then look at the national picture about the fiscal crisis, the money crisis, and then looking how we can solve that, and looking off into the future about new positive changes for the Postal Service. But Steve's going to
lead off
about the local conditions.
And after Steve talks a little bit, we got a little video that we want to play as well.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, you've got it.
My name is Steve, as we said. Been a carrier a little over 5.5 years now.
Here in Portland.
In Portland. And presently working out of St. John's. I'm a professor. You might ask, what are the deteriorating services that we're restricting to? And we're talking about like late deliveries, irregular deliveries, deliveries after dark in the wintertime, longer lines at the post office, long waits at the retail, just for the services. And why is that happening? It's due to understaffing. Understaffing on the street by the carriers, understaffing in the office for the clerks, retail people. And this understaffing has been brought about by a more than 3-year freeze in permanent career employee hiring. And by that I mean people that are fully vested. They got all their benefits, the whole 9 yards. They're committed to working for us.
So they've just froze out.
They've frozen that out. It's been replaced with what they call TEs, transitionals or temporaries.
Temps. Like McDonald's.
Like McDonald's. And these are people that come in and they get signed to work 51 weeks a year and then have to take a week off before they can come back.
So they won't be considered regular.
Won't be considered regular. If they work the 52nd week, they would probably have to be made a regular. They don't have any benefits other than, I believe, they acquire vacation time. There's no sick.
A little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah.
But there's no sick time, no vacation, or no medical, no dental.
Yeah, when I worked there in the 60s, you could acquire 2 weeks of medical or sick leave and 2 weeks of vacation pay.
Yeah. Well,
that's gone.
That's gone for them. They got nothing. Why is this happening? Well, obviously it's cheaper to have a TE that you can cut loose. You don't have to pay all those benefits. Most offices, forget how many Jamie's has got, but our office has got 3 open routes, which means nobody's assigned to them. One that's got a long-term medical absence, so that's 4, plus a what we call a T6, the temp that fills in for everybody on their day off. So every day we start off 5 bodies short, and they either have to break up the routes and give everybody a little extra section to carry at the end of the day when they're done with theirs.
And hopefully they'll be next to each other.
Yeah. Or they bring in these TEs, which they may or may not know the area. You know, they don't know whose parcels they can leave on the front porch, or can I leave it out back? Is that fine? So the service is down a bit. I mean, these people care. but it's down. They don't know your customer base as well. What's the solution? Obviously, let's fully staff the place. Let's get regular carriers 6 days a week. That's what we're looking for. 6 days a week coverage. Take care of our customers.
Let's go to that video.
Okay, now I think we're ready for that video a little earlier than I think. I think we're probably ready. The video is on a DVD, and we'll go to that right away if we could.
Is it ready? They're ready. Hold on.
All right.
Here you go.
Got to push the right sequence of buttons in there.
That's right.
All right.
There's no sound until this is done.
Right.
Right. Robert had to cancel out at the last minute because his wife went into labor. So I'm reading his testimony.
Some people do anything to get out of it. They're building the labor movement. Come on.
Robert is a transitional employee, as was the prior speaker. He says, I enjoy being a letter carrier. Carrying the mail, you become a part of the fabric of the community. After delivering Christmas gifts on the coldest, darkest nights to investing in summer lemonade stands, the Postal Service is just that, a service, and one that I am glad I can perform. I just hope they start hiring soon. As a 3-year TE, transitional employee, my position is filled with the stress of uncertainty. Will I be rehired at the end of my contract? Will I be transferred without notice to a station across town or to a different city altogether? Will my hours decrease? Will I be unable to afford health insurance? Will my time on this route be too long and I am disciplined or let go? The life of the TE is one without a net, one filled with stress, doubt, and worry. So you ask, why stay on the job? Mail carriers are a unique brand of people. We can smile through 6 hours of cold and wet. We enjoy the service we provide and seeing the lives we touch. This pride and joy in carrying is not confined to career employees. TEs are not hoping for the moon, but just a chance for the stability in a career we already proved we are capable of, and to fill the vacant routes we already carry. 3 years is a horribly long time to interview.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anil Nath, and I have been employed with the Postal Service as a transitional employee for about 3.5 years. Transition employment is all about lots of hope, with no benefits and no future. Born and raised in Fiji Islands, being an Indian descent, as you know, that people from India were indentured servants in organized slavery, who worked very hard with no benefit, no future, no hope. Very much like transitional employees in Postal Service. During 3.5 years of my service, I have worked very hard in very extreme conditions of weather, been bounced around like a ping pong from station to station. And there have been situations that I was injured at work while still getting treatment. Postal Service tried to fire me. Thank goodness that I do have one benefit, that I belong to the Union of Letter Carriers, that not only got my job back, but they got my job back in days, so my thanks to them. And I hope Postal Service appreciate the hard work of transitional employees and keep the 6 days of delivery service so that people like us still have jobs who not only support their family, people like me, I support my children and their college education. And my thanks. And keep the employment and keep the service for 6 days, so all the employees and the postal service benefit from it, and out of all the customers who deserve our very good service. Thank you.
I am the wife of one of your hardworking T carriers at your Rose City station. He has been working faithfully for the past 3 years. No time off, no benefits, and afraid to call in sick for fear of being terminated. So I have been diligent in keeping him in good health so that we can continue to pay our bills. I'm truly grateful that he has a job that pays him well, but I am sad to know that it is only appreciated by a few. I'm sad because numbers are more important than the fact that he strives to give good customer service to people who should matter to all of us. I am one of the many that still appreciate real customer service. I still write letters, I still pay bills by mail, I still purchase postage stamps.
Can I write on this?
Here we are. We're back on the air.
Oh, was she through talking already?
I guess so.
Oh, that was
Sorry.
quick. Snuck up on me there. So, you were wanting to go to him. Now I'll go to you.
Yeah. So the Postal Service is refusing to hire career employees because they say they have to cut labor costs. And they say they have to cut labor costs because, according to the books, the Postal Service has been losing billions of dollars, $8 billion last year, $2 billion in the last quarter. And the Postmaster General is threatening to cut from 6-day delivery to 5-day delivery or 4-day delivery. He's already said he's going to close 2,000 post offices, community post offices, and maybe up to 17,000, which is half the post offices in the nation, to save labor costs. And the question is the Postal Service really in debt? And the Office of the Inspector General of the U.S. Postal Service says no, that actually there's an accounting problem that is decades old that could fix and put the Postal Service in the black. But Congress has to fix it, or the President has to fix it. What the problem is that the Postal Service there's two things. The Postal Service has overfunded the retirement funds by somewhere between $50 billion and $75 billion, which is like a whole year's worth of operating costs. It's a huge amount. And then there's also a poison pill that was put into a piece of legislation in 2006 during the Bush era, which forces the Postal Service to pre-fund retiree health benefits 75 years in advance within 10 years. So that means that the Postal Service has to spend $5.5 billion a year to pre-fund retiree health benefits for people who not only don't work for the Postal Service yet, but aren't even born yet. And so there's this huge amount of money, $75 billion, that's in the retirement fund that's extra. Plus there's already $42 billion in this fund for pre-funding retiree health benefits. There's that's over $100-something billion that could be used either for operating costs or, in any case, it would put the Postal Service in the black. And we need Congress to do the right thing, which is there's a House bill. It's called H.R. 1351, House Resolution 1351, which would fix the accounting problem. Or the President himself could just issue an executive order, tell the Office of Personnel Management to transfer these funds. But currently there is not the political will in Washington to do these things, even though these funds are not taxpayer funds. They're funds that came from postage. The revenue of the Postal Service has been postage since 1983. There has been no taxpayer funds involved. Basically, the Postal Service soft budget. But the opposition party, or the Republicans, are calling this transfer of funds a taxpayer bailout. There's this ideological opposition. So the Postal Service is looking at by the end of September, reaching its debt limit, defaulting on its debt, going insolvent because of this crazy accounting problem, and actually not being able to pay our pay put out for our paychecks, and even go bankrupt. And bankruptcy can mean all kinds of things. It could be it could forfeit the union contracts. It could be broken. The company could be broken up and sold off to private companies. There's all kinds of things that could happen by the end of September. So we're kind of in a squeeze right now. We're trying to get the word out to the public so that they can help us put pressure on management and Congress to do the right thing.
Well, I would think that it would be in Obama's best interest to maybe step forward with this, because everybody almost uses the post office anymore, and there's how many letter carriers? You say there's 17,000 offices they might quit, so that's quite a few.
Well, if for example, if 1 day of delivery were eliminated, if they went from 6 day to 5 day, that would cost about 80,000 jobs. About 80,000 jobs would be eliminated. That's a lot of jobs in every community.
Amount of jobs.
And you're not just talking about impacting the families of the letter carriers. You're talking about living wage jobs disappearing in communities, and that means purchasing power. That affects all kinds of businesses.
Sure. As you were talking about, if they default, this pre-funding stops them from being able to continue business. That rider, was it a rider that was snuck into a bill or something like that?
Yeah.
Couldn't that be the design of like a corporate raider that wants to get at that 45 million or billion or whatever it was that's stuck into a hole somewhere? Is that a possibility that they're trying to get privatized and get at that?
Well, we kind of wonder, why would they do something like that? No other government agency is being forced to pre-fund retiree health benefits 75. No corporation would pre-fund their retiree health benefits.
They're going the other direction.
So what would be the reason except to drive the Postal Service into the ground so they could do what? Break it up, privatize.
Break it up, and
it's certainly true that during the Bush administration he appointed a number of people to the Postal Board of Governors, which is like the board of directors, who want to privatize the Postal Service. I mean, there is that ideology at the top.
Mm-hmm. We might get back to that, but I know that Willie had something to add to the conversation here also.
Well, I got a few things. Following up on the point here is that if it wasn't for this pre-funding payment from 2006 until now, the Postal Service would have actually turned a profit in the neighborhood of about $700 million if we just got rid of that one payment alone.
Even with the recession.
Yeah, even with the recession.
Even with the loss of mail volume, still be operating in the black.
We've still been a profitable company. But I get to do the fun part and talk about ways to keep the Postal Service going. We are an organization that sells one thing and one thing only. We sell service to every single person in the entire United States of America, no matter where you live, no matter what status you are within society. We're here to work for you. That's what we're here for, is to give you the best service possible.
No matter how much you use computers, you still need the service.
In some ways, computers have increased our business. We're delivering more packages and parcels now than we ever have. That's been one of our...
people buying on... Yeah, right.
Yeah, they buy it online.
I didn't think about that.
And the more people realize we, in almost every case, are the most affordable and the most reliable way to get those packages to their houses. So more and more people are starting to rely on us to get them there. And that's great.
In fact, UPS and...
Yeah, UPS and Federal Express, because their business model is to not have to travel very far. The smaller their line of travel, the lower their costs, so the higher their profits.
Right.
So they drop off packages to local post offices on a daily basis and have us deliver them to the homes and addresses that aren't in the convenient travel circles. Yeah, every single day, everywhere. Especially when you get into rural communities.
Hinterland, yeah.
Yeah, I used to work out in Newburgh, out in Yamhill County, and we'd have a UPS truck and a FedEx truck pull up every single morning, dropping stuff off, and we'd take it out there to the houses that aren't profitable for them to go to. So, there's lots of things that we can do to grow and improve our business model. And the fact that most of what's being provided from people up on top is the cutting back of service and the cutting back of our business is ridiculous. All that's going to do is kill us. If you do one thing and you decide you're going to do less of it, I don't understand how that's going to grow and improve your business. It just doesn't make sense to me. We've got 3 really big strengths. We have a post office in every single community in the nation. So we've got an actual physical building where everybody can go to and get that. We have delivery to every single address in this great nation. It's called our Last Mile Delivery Network. We're the only organization that will go to anywhere in the United States of America 6 days a week to deliver whatever needs to be delivered.
Does that include Alaska?
That does include Alaska. I've heard there's some communities in Alaska where they have it as a centralized pickup point because there's just not enough bodies to actually go to the. But yes, even in Alaska, and to get the stuff to Alaska, it costs exactly the same as it does to get it elsewhere. We don't discriminate on cost due to distance in that regard. And the other thing that we have is we actually have the largest fleet of vehicles in the entire United States of America. And there's ways that we can take these tools and come up with newer, better services and keep us going. Like take the fleet of vehicles. Why don't we adopt green technology?
Exactly.
Electric technology. Because our fleet is so large, by modernizing and going to that, not only will we save millions upon millions of dollars in fuel costs, but that big of a push would provide American manufacturing companies the means to perfect those technologies and make them more affordable so that it could be offered on a wider scale to the rest of the country. I mean, we not only would we improve the Postal Service, but we would improve the environmental quality across the nation by doing that.
By that demand, you would prime the pump on a much larger supply.
Yeah.
Which would be broadcast, nationwide.
Yeah, and that would be.
I see your point.
That would be a boon not only for the Postal Service but for everybody. Another thing we could do. Why don't we put sensors on these vehicles that detect air quality or potential biological threats? We've got these trucks out on the streets of every single major city in the country. We could use that as a means to have that technology, that information coming back in, letting people know if there's something that's coming, letting people know if there's a major weather change. You get a big barometric change out in some small area, we'd be there.
Sure.
And that would be reported back instantly, as opposed to, having to wait a little longer to get that information. As it is now, if there was a biological attack in this nation, we are the network that is going to be delivering people the necessary medication to make sure that everybody's okay. We've already got those systems in place. They're already being tested and used around the country by letter carriers. Let me see. And our buildings, one in every single community. In those buildings, we have access to one of the largest computer networks in the entire country. Why don't we make this something that people that don't have the money to have their own internet access, that don't have the money to have their computers, why don't we make it so that they can come into the post office and get online and do financial transactions, do renewal of licensings, do things that people need to be able to do, and if they don't have access to it, we can provide it. We're already there. We've got the means to do it. We just need to make it available to them.
Look how much people use the libraries for the computers.
Yeah, and look at how hard it is for a lot of these libraries to keep up the funding to be able to do that. I mean, we could take a burden off those small little public libraries by providing this service too, and then they could focus more on getting, services that are going to help out on the, with getting more books and keeping the buildings from falling apart and things like that. We're a government agency, so why don't we have the opportunity to have people come into those buildings and renew their licenses, get their park passes for their national parks and their state parks? We could be a one-stop center that actually gives people friendly, safe access to whatever government agencies that they need. We could act as kind of a facilitating hub so that somebody that lives out in a rural district that would normally have to drive 50 or 100 miles to get to a county building to do these things, why not let them just come down the street to the post office and be able to have access to that? We could do all that.
These are all really great ideas and things I had never thought of before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else has thought of these before. It just seems to me that what I'm getting from this is that when I originally was listening to Jamie at the Mayday rally the other day, I thought, well, people need to know about what is having to pre-fund that and why that is spinning this into a deregulation situation. But now I'm seeing that the U.S. Forest Service, the buildings and the infrastructure is a large part of the community. and a neighborhood actually, and that is actually being, well, if not sold down the river, I'm not going to get into that, but it's actually being turned into a liability rather than the asset that it is.
Yeah.
Is what I mean trying to say there, and so was that all that you?
Oh,
You got more?
I could keep going and go on. You just mentioning that maintaining 6-day delivery. As you know, this Saturday, the second Saturday of every May is when we have our National Letter Carrier Food Drive.
Oh, all right.
If we cut back delivery to 5 days a week, if they eliminate Saturday delivery, the effectiveness of this food drive, which here in the state of Oregon alone last year brought in, I believe it was 1.7 million pounds of food on one day, just in the state of Oregon.
Wow.
If they eliminate Saturday delivery, how effective is that food drive going to be if we have to do it on, say, Wednesday or Thursday when everybody's off at work and busy? It works as well as it does because we do it on Saturday because we're out there 6 days a week and because we're a part of the community. And this last mile network where we go to every single house, every single address around the country, we could do a lot more with that. The technology exists to provide real-time downloading of data so that people that are sending packages and paying the extra money for the delivery confirmation. As it is right now, we scan those. At the end of the day, we take our scanner back to the office and put it into a cradle, and then it downloads. So you don't actually find out until that evening. The technology exists. We should be able to scan a package as delivered, and when we get back to our truck, it should just go in a holster there that would download it, and they'd be able to know within a matter of minutes of when their packages arrived and have better accountability. People have better access. And that's a no-brainer because that technology is already being used.
It's there.
It's there. It's just waiting to be used.
But since you folks have been in such a tailspin trying to make things work, you really haven't been able to spend the time and the energy into implementing some of these great ideas, sounds like to me.
We as a union are taking responsibility for saving the Postal Service from postal management. Basically, we think that management is not putting the resources into thinking about the future of the Postal Service, except for cut. And so because we want to preserve the Postal Service and our jobs, we're thinking about these various ways to transform the business model, because over the long haul, first-class business mail is going to the internet. That more and more,
I was going to bring that up
because of email, fax, electronic funds transfer, bill paying, etc. There is a lower volume first-class mail, which is the big revenue generator. So these are some of the ideas for transforming the business model. And one of the things that you left out was this idea of letter carriers looking in on the frail and elderly.
That's a huge one.
People often don't live in the same city as their parent or their elderly relative, but a letter carrier could look in on them, on a daily basis and send email.
Send an email, a text message.
Your loved one is okay.
A tweet, whatever the person signs
Grandma
up.
tweet.
Whatever the person, whatever the son or daughter living away from the town signs up for, as far as the way to communicate it, the technology is there, and it's we could do all this.
Or we could even do same day order and delivery. You could email. The doctor could send the prescription to the local drugstore. The drugstore could email the post office. Post office could send a message to the letter carrier, pick up the pharmaceuticals and deliver it to the person on their route on the same day.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things can happen.
When adversity strikes, people get creative. It just really seems to me that America used to be, USA. This is what America used to be: is incredible creativity to solve problems. And of course, you solve a problem, it creates another problem, and they keep getting solved. But the emphasis these days seems to be on making the profits, since everything is being run by corporations. And Postal Service, when I worked in the '60s, I know they talked about it wasn't making money back then, and it's gone through a whole bunch of different changes over the years. It seems to me that these final changes that are coming down are, if not designed to end it, are in effect going to end it. And what kind of campaign is going on, since we're getting close to the end of the segment, what kind of campaigns are going on in order to let the folks know out there? Because the only way this is going to be stopped is for the people that use it to get involved.
Exactly.
It seemed like to me.
One of the
anyway.
things that we're doing here locally is we're getting out to neighborhood associations and to community organizations and other unions and talking about these very same things and asking people to sign petitions and to write letters or postcards or call their congressperson, ask them to co-sponsor this H.R. 1351.
Right, we better make sure we
which is
mention that.
the
a few
accounting
times.
fix, H.R. 1351, and to just to be in touch with our union, to follow the developments
We got
between
the
now
wrong
and
name for you up there.
between now and the end of the end of September, when the Postal Service is going to go insolvent unless this accounting fix happens.
Mm-hmm. It just seems to me that because I haven't heard of this, it's the H.R. 1351,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the House resolution. Now, wouldn't
Correct.
that also have to have
A Senate component.
A Senate component?
It doesn't yet. It was just introduced a couple weeks ago, but and if folks want us to come and speak to their organization, we're happy to do it. We've developed a speakers bureau from our local union here in the Portland area.
Well, now that you mentioned that National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 82, now that website there is the national.
Correct.
But that phone number is local here,
That's
obviously, the
correct.
503.
Yeah.
So I'll make a note of that to the viewers out there. 493-5903 is how you can get a hold of folks. And I imagine, you'd be in the yellow pages or whatever under
National Association of Letter
of
Carriers.
letter carriers.
Yeah.
That's a union. That's not the actual
the
post
post
office. Which I was thinking in the beginning it was. So the campaign is aimed at just citizens in general, I would imagine. And how other ways are you trying to reach people?
Are we in the process of trying to get into the Portland City Hall meeting coming up?
City Council.
Or City Council meeting? Yeah,
It's a good idea.
We're
Sure.
trying to get a hearing before City Council, bring in folks from the different neighborhoods to testify, get the City Council to pass a resolution, to get some more publicity. Just trying to build
Just a profile.
exposure and
Yeah.
support to get Congress and management to do the right thing.
Yeah. And then also the video footage from our Workers' Rights Board, that's up on YouTube as well. What's
Yeah.
the search for that, Jamie?
Oh, it's Postal Crisis Portland Hearing.
Okay, yeah,
That should
Postal
do
Crisis
it.
Portland
Just
hearing, yeah,
Google.
on YouTube, and you can see that whole footage of all the different testimony from customers, employees. It was a very, very well received event. It was standing room only. We had that room packed. It was a great thing. So.
And letter carriers are doing this around the country in the different cities, what we're trying to do to build the, build the prairie fire to change the way things are in D.C.
Yeah.
Any town that is a town of any size or whatever has a post office.
Mm-hmm.
And it would seem to me that this is a really good idea. A thought that occurred to me, set up some places where people can plug in their electric cars possibly at one of these places.
Yeah.
Something like that. When you got a central location, the infrastructure's there. There's so many things it could be used for.
Oh yeah.
Because the post office I worked for in Redding, California was an enormous place, but that's all it was used for.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably still there doing the same thing. Bring the flag up every morning, bring it down at night. That's about it.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that. Well, I was thinking while you were talking, you mentioned the city council meeting. What would happen to your various state, municipal, and all those kind of offices with an enormous amount of mail, even though it's less than it used to be? If the post office went through some of the changes you were designating, wouldn't that affect how governments do business?
I would think so, certainly. And we've seen this in other countries that have actually privatized their postal services.
So we have models to go by.
The Dutch, the German, some have privatized, and basically they're the high volume mailers, people who mail and send out and receive a lot of mail, get the attention from the profit making private delivery services, but the low income neighborhoods, the rural neighborhoods, get terrible service. 3 days a week, or if that kind of. And so it's really the marginal, the vulnerable, that will really lose out. The government agencies and the big businesses, the downtown businesses, they'll be okay. So it's. We're not looking to them as much for the support as we are
Oh,
for
all right, I
the people
see.
in the community.
They might be able to get what they need out, but a lot of the people that they're sending it to
That's
will
true.
Get
not
it.
be receiving
That's
it
true,
in a timely manner at all because it's not profitable. The way the Postal Service is set up with this whole last mile network, we're designed that with our business within the cities where it's high density, and that is where we make our profits. And that's how we're able to continue to provide service to everybody no matter where you are. Because frankly, if you have to drive an extra 15, 20 miles up into the hills to get to somebody's house, that's not profitable. But we have a business model that's designed so that we can continue to do that and still be a viable business. And we just need to expand what we do so that so we can be around for generation after generation after generation. We are the eyes and the ears in the streets 6 days a week. Hardly a day goes by that somewhere in this country somebody's life isn't directly affected by the fact that their letter carrier comes by and happens to be the one person that came by when they've fallen down in the house and they can't get up, or happen to go by and see that a fire's started in a vacant home. They
Sure.
notify the authorities. Happen to be there when a car accident occurs and are able to get people out of a car that's about to explode.
A person's dog goes and snatches up somebody, and that's quite
Yeah.
often a police officer or somebody in a uniform like the Post Service.
Yep.
Well, this is turned out completely different than I expected it to be. I expected it to be something having to do with we do have to do that. I mean, deal with this pre-funding situation, but I never thought of the post office, even though I had worked for it for years ago, as such a community and a neighborhood institution. And you folks have really opened my eyes up to this. And I know that you're having to get down the road. You were having a union meeting at
Tonight.
36 minutes late for it right now. But I appreciate you coming in. Does anybody have any? Steve, you've been awful quiet. You got a blockbuster for us, don't you?
I'm relatively new to this whole business. This is
all
a
right.
second career for me. I worked for a company that went down this road, getting rid of career people, bringing in
really?
the temps. Go through a layoff, bring in more temps, go through a layoff. They've been sold. I don't know that they're even still in business. A little
Just gonna
company
ask.
called Tektronix out in Beaverton.
Little
They're no
company.
longer owned by themselves. They're owned by parent company of another, John
Yeah.
Fluke. But I don't want to see this happening, and it galls me to see our government treat people this way. To treat these temps the way they do. They're essentially on probation 51 weeks. At any point during that 51-week period, if they do something wrong, they can be terminated.
They've
They can look at the boss wrong, terminated.
Mm-hmm.
So it galls me, and I want to see this corrected. I want to see all these people given full-time jobs. Man, like the one lady said, man the routes permanently that they're doing part-time now. So,
Well said.
it galls me.
The government should be a model employer.
Yeah, it should be a model employer and not
Set the
what it
standard,
is.
the community standard.
And provide good union jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So wasn't this started by Benjamin Franklin?
It was.
Yeah.
First Postmaster
First
General.
Postmaster General was Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, it's all about the Benjamin. All right, well, I think we probably covered this. We could probably go into it more, but you folks have to leave, and I'm glad we were able to bring this forward and talk about it. And folks have hopefully wrote down that phone number, and this program will be repeated a number of times, and we'll also get a copy of it to you so you can get it up on the internet, because I know you want to help spread the word. So, on April 16th, there was a Portland Rising. There we go.